Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1387B and today's date is September 26, 2017, and the title of the episode is The Clock is Ticking Down. Is the Cabal ready to make their next move? Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, less than a week ago, we talked about how Facebook was handing over all these ads that, they said Russia took out to push the election for Trump, and they were handing this over to the congressional investigators and also to Mueller. And it turns out that a lot of these ads, well, they weren't really for Trump. They showed support for Clinton. And again, they have no evidence that these ads were taken out by Russia. And there was, about 3,000 different ads, and they're going through them, and they're starting to realize it's not what they think it is, and it looks like a lot of them have to do with Clinton and not Trump. And again, they are just trying to find anything out of any of this, just to blame Trump for Russian collusion, because at this point they have no evidence. They have nothing. They can't prove anything, and if they did have proof, guess what? It would have been all over the place. And we know from Project Veritas, when they went undercover inside of CNN and other places, we know that this is a nothing burger. This was all made up by the corporate media, by the cabal, to convince everyone that Russia is the enemy, that they're pushing their agenda, they're trying to push their candidate into being elected, and all of this is complete lies. That's all this is. Now, we see out in North Korea, the cabal is still provoking North Korea. North Korea, they have boosted their East Coast defenses, moving aircraft and fortifying their positions, making sure that the United States does not invade. And at this point in time, I don't think the United States is going to invade whatsoever. White House spokesman Sarah Sanders denied on Monday that the United States has declared war, calling the suggestion absurd. And China's foreign ministry spokesman Liu Kang said war on the Korean peninsula would have no winner. And I know General Mattis and the corporate media is out there saying that he has 3 different plans. None of these plans are going to work. The United States at this point is not going to invade North Korea unless there is some type of false flag, which the cabal might do, where they might make it look like North Korea fired some type of missile, maybe from a submarine, or they could say that it came from this area. But the problem is that China and Russia right now, they have their satellites. They've been monitoring the situation in this area to make sure that they can't pull off a false flag. Now, doesn't mean they won't try. They most likely will. Now, the Chinese military, they have, for the first time, staged live fire drills at the country's first overseas base, which was open in the Horn of Africa. This is Djibouti, and this is in the Strait of Hormuz. This is the place where the United States used to have a base. Now China has a base, and it looks like China is making deals with a lot of the African nations, and they're teaching them how to build. They're building schools, they're building railways, they're working with them economically compared to the United States, which was working with these countries by force, saying you will do what we say or we will bring in forces and we will have regime change. Now we see the U.S., and it looks like this is coming from the cabal, they might be preparing restrictions for Russian military flights over America. Now we know there's the 2002 Open Skies Treaty, which they signed, and that means that the United States can fly over Russia. Russia can fly over the United States. They can take pictures. And we can see right now that the United States, the cabal, might be trying to push the agenda to violate the treaty. Now, again, this is coming out of the Wall Street Journal. This could be completely fake, phony, and false, which most likely it is, to make everyone believe that, oh, look what we're doing. We're canceling with Russia because they were trying to spy on something, and it looks like they're trying to build this up. Right now, Russia is not reporting any of this at this point, so we'll have to wait and see how this story and how this reporting actually goes. We see out in Iraq and Syria, the Kurdish separatists, they are saying that, yes, we have voted and we want our independence. Now, the Iraqi government and the Syrian government, well, they're really not going along with this right now. And what's very interesting about all of this is I'm wondering, because I haven't seen any reports from the UN or any other independent monitoring of the referendum. We just know that the Kurds had a referendum, and we're not getting anything from any monitors of the referendum, which normally takes place, to show that this was a true referendum. And we see right now that they're just telling us that there was an overwhelming turnout and that they all voted for independence. And this is going to happen, which they want to happen, in Iraq and Syria, and I think even parts of Iran. So we could see there the Cabal is going to use this to create chaos in the region. And they're going to push the chaos probably at this point, because as the Iraqi government, as the Syrian government reject this, this is when the United States, the Cabal, this is when they're going to push their agenda and try to push the separation of these countries. But this is why they built the bases. This is why they brought in the weapons. This is why they prepared all this, and we've been following this and tracking this. This is why they've been doing it, because they knew that this wasn't going to go over so easily, where they just vote and they say, okay, you know what? This is your land. They knew that they were going to have to fight and fight the governments of these countries. And in Syria and in Iraq, they know that they're paid mercenary forces. They are beaten, so they don't care about that. They're going to be using the Kurds to push the agenda right now. Now, we see that the Islamic State fighters, they are coming out and they are admitting that they were forbidden to attack the Kurdish forces in Deir ez-Zor. They were forbidden to fight the U.S. troops that were in Syria. And what we're seeing right now is that the reason why they were forbidden is because they were controlled, supported by the United States, Israel, and the coalition forces. Now, Russia has done something very interesting. They have built a bridge across the Euphrates. The bridge is about 210 meters long. It can serve around 8,000 cars a day. The bridge supports heavy armored vehicles such as tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, multiple launch rocket systems, and the bridge will also be used for aid convoys to liberated communities. And the building of the bridge will enable the Syrian army to throw its armored columns at the east part of the Euphrates and move further east. Now, this is a game changer because a lot of heavy military artillery is going to be moving towards the east, which will then push the paid mercenaries further and further east, and they have no place to go. And this is going to bump up against the Kurdish territory. So we're going to have to watch this situation very, very closely to see what does occur. Now, very interestingly, 3 high-ranking Russian officers were killed in an ISIS attack in eastern Syria. And it looks like they might have been killed by the U.S. Special Forces or insurgents under U.S. Special Forces control. And Russia is looking at this situation, and they came out with a statement that, listen, if the U.S. attacks Russia, we will respond. And it looks like the Cabal was trying to push their agenda by maybe getting Russia involved in a war. And we can see right now, this is exactly what they want, because we need to think about something, and it's very clear when we look at all of this in the big picture, is that they are running out of time. The clock is ticking down. And it's only a matter of time. I mean, Lavrov is already out there calling for the United States to leave Syria right now, along with the coalition forces. They're destroying the bases of the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, because they're in a big mop-up operation. North Korea, they're not getting what they really wanted at this point. They wanted a war, and they're still trying to push this, but it's not going the way they want. It looks like they're going to have to try some type of false flag. And in Syria and in Iraq, they just had their referendum, and they're preparing to have chaos. So we have a lot of things happening all at once, because they understand and they know that they only have a certain period of time to push this agenda. And what we're seeing from all of this is that they can't wait, because everything that we've looked at and everything that we've tracked over time is deteriorating and falling apart very, very quickly. So this means the Cabal, since they have no evidence of Russian collusion, they tried to push a civil war in Charlottesville. They tried to push that. It didn't go anywhere. They're pushing their agenda with the NFL still trying to push and show that Trump is racist. And I don't know how far they're going to get with this. I think it's not going as planned. A lot of people are rejecting what the NFL is doing. Their ratings are way, way down. People are out there saying, let's boycott them. And I see a lot of people very, very angry about what is going on. And then we have countries that are moving away from the dollar, countries that are going to be using the oil-backed yuan or gold-backed yuan, and they're dumping the dollar at record pace. And we see that retail, housing, the GDP numbers, those are all fake numbers, by the way. Those are all manipulated statistics. That is all falling apart. And no one is buying the corporate media lie anymore. So everything that they've tried to do is now falling apart. And they only have a certain period of time to get something started. And this is what we see right now in this time frame, because they will use this time frame to try to push their agenda. And once again, can they do it? Well, they're going to give it their best shot. They're going to make it look like Russia's the enemy. They're going to continue with the telephone cyber attacks in Russia to keep them confused, keep them occupied. They're going to try to push their agenda with North Korea. We might see the false flag there. They're going to push chaos with the Kurds in Syria. So all of this is happening all at once, because what we know is things are rapidly falling apart here in the United States, in Europe. The global economy is imploding on itself, and the central bankers are most worried about blame. They don't want to be blamed for this, because this is all intertwined into the central bank. Because remember, how does the Cabal make their money? They borrow it from the central bank. They make a lot of money from covert operations. They need the central bank because they need the printing press to create this currency to support their operations. And they've been using it for a very long time. And now it's coming to an end, and they're very worried. So the economy is eventually going to crash. You're going to have to get ready for it. You're going to have to get prepared. You're going to need food and water. You're going to need supplies, because when it hits, people are going to be shocked. People are not going to understand what just happened. Look at Puerto Rico right now. I mean, they got hit by 2 hurricanes. People can't find drinking water. There is no electric. There's no internet. Houses have been wiped away. I mean, this is nature's horrific force. An economic force is going to empty store shelves. It's going to make people very worried. We're going to see riots. And people are going to have to survive on their own. You're going to have to become independent. And we are headed in this direction. And you can see from the 2 hurricanes in Texas and Florida how people were scrambling to get all their supplies. You don't want to be scrambling in the end, because we know the central bank does not have this under control anymore. It is falling apart. And I'm talking about the real economy. They can't control the real economy. Housing. Yes, they can control it in 20 cities, but there's more than 20 cities in the country. There's many other areas of the country. They can't control retail, where people spend their money. They can't control who has jobs. They can't create jobs. This is what we're seeing. Corporate revenue sales, they can't control that either. Yes, they can have the corporations manipulate it and show that earnings are a lot better than they really are. But when it comes down to it, they don't have the revenue and the sales. All of this right now is accelerating. We've been watching it. And there's nothing they can do about it. So get prepared, get ready, because this system is coming down. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.